Welcome to the Witty and Gritty podcast, where we believe that lifelong learning and relentless determination are essential to developing your passions and reaching your goals. Here to help you along the way are the hosts of the show. Take it away, ladies.
Hey y'all, I'm Brooke.
And I'm Farron.
As educators and high achievers, we're passionate about providing our listeners with effective strategies to help navigate life's obstacles and reach your goals sooner.
Join us as we break down credible research that gives you a fresh perspective and challenges your limiting beliefs.
Laugh and grow as we share personal anecdotes and interviews from people that have demonstrated what it takes to be successful.
By implementing these practices, you will develop your unique skill set and learn how to better serve your community.
Get your mind right.
And enjoy this time designed just for you.
Okay, we're on episode 90 of the Get Out of Your Head mini-series by Jenny Allen, and it's all about stopping the spiral of toxic thoughts. And we are in our second of 3 interviews.
And the interviews are always my favorite.
Yeah.
I said it first.
You beat me to it.
So now you can't say
Interviews
it's your
are
favorite.
also my favoriteest.
Nope. Oh, Morstest
is the new one.
That's the new one my kids came up with.
Right.
So Morstest.
Today on the show, we have Tiffany Armstrong. She is a self-defense expert, and she does have a couple of black belts under her belt. This is too punny. So why don't you introduce yourself to us, Tiff?
Yes, I do have a couple secondary black belts under my belt, and I don't show them all the time, but I would if I needed to. But yes, I am a self-defense expert. I've been teaching women all over the world for 22 years after I survived my own attack 22 years ago with self-defense. And I was not an expert back then. I just had literally seen somebody show me 3 self-defense moves. I'd never practiced them, and then I was attacked. And I actually was able to get out of that attack, put that guy in prison. I happened to break his nose, as we were discussing earlier, and he went off to prison. And I survived, and I ended up making it my mission to just help women and children, men too. I've been teaching men as well. For all these years, because there's just so much about personal safety that we don't realize, but it can actually be quite simple. So that's what I stand for.
I love that. So today we're going to talk about overcoming and combating those negative toxic thoughts or a mindset, how your mindset matters, and how you can use your body and mind to overcome those limiting beliefs and be more confident, and if necessary, use some black belt action.
That's right. And there's a whole bunch of mindset I teach for that exact reason, just based on how attackers choose their victims. Our mindset is so important to be able to be wipe ourselves off that victim list. So I'm excited to get into all of it with you guys.
Okay, so take us back to the beginning. Maybe how you happened upon those self-defense moves prior to that attack.
Yeah, well, I weighed about 35 pounds heavier. I was in a kickboxing class, just working out my, anger. I'm just joking, but I was just trying to lose some weight, and the dojo owner ended up coming in at the end when we were all stretching, and he said, you guys want to learn a few self-defense moves? And we said, absolutely. So he literally just showed a few self-defense concepts, which I can share if you'd like me to, but I never practiced them. And 2 weeks later, I happened to be attacked. A home invader came into my friend's house and pulled me into the bathroom. And I can share that as much as you want to, but he meant business. And it was the scariest thing I've ever been through. But all I could think about is, oh my gosh, I saw these 3 self-defense moves, these concepts 2 weeks before. And all I could think about is I need to stay conscious because he was hitting my head so hard. And I needed to attempt these moves. And so I attempted them. They worked. He went off to prison. I'm still here to talk about it. Now I'm helping women all over the world, women, kids, and men.
So I'm assuming but correct me if I'm wrong, that after that attack, next day you're like, I'm going to be an expert in self-defense. Or what was that process like, recovering physically, mentally, emotionally, and then did this spur your passion that you have today for self-defense?
I love that question because no, not 1 ounce of me was like, oh, this is my new mission. I was more in severe paranoia for about 2 years, actually. I was walking down the street, and any man who looked in my direction, I wasn't like, you better not mess with me. I was more like, even though I was learning self-defense skills, I was still extremely paranoid. And I I had lived in victim mentality my entire life. That's just the reality. I was abused growing up for many, many years. And then I was attacked. And the interesting part of my attack, to kind of piggyback on what you were just asking, is so this guy came in, he was a home invader. He snuck into the bathroom and he attacked me. And I ended up, doing the 3 moves, breaking his nose. He went off to prison. But the craziest part for me was when the police came, they said he was wanted for 2 rapes and an attempted homicide. And they went out to they put him in the back of the squad car. And then one of the police officers came back in after I had given my statement and all the things. And he said, I want to tell you something. And I said, what's that? And he said, he told me something very interesting, and I think it's important for you to hear. And I said, what's that? And he said, he chose you out of everybody there. There was about 12 of us there. And I said, what do you mean he chose me? He just was in the bathroom. I was walking by, like, how did he know to pull me in? I just was, like, it seemed like a crime of opportunity to me. And he said, no, he was standing outside the house for 30 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever it was. And he was watching us, and he chose me as his victim. And I was not the most attractive person. I was homely looking, all the things. So it wasn't an attractive thing, which is what I didn't understand. I thought attackers chose like attractive people. Honestly, back in the day, I thought that's how that worked. What's the reality? And I can get into an actual study that talks about the mindset and how attackers choose their victims. But one of the things that he ended up saying was he chose me because I looked like the easiest victim, because I was extremely insecure back then. I carried myself with my breastbone down. I was, just very not confident in who I was. And he said to the police officers, she looked like the easiest target because I knew she wouldn't fight back. That's what he was assuming about me because of the vibe I was giving off. He picked me by looking at me through a window for that long. And so that is something I did immediately start researching, is how attackers choose their victims. I started studying the field of victimology. And would you like me to talk about that study real quickly? Because it's fascinating. So these researchers went into a prison and they asked all these convicted criminals to sit down one by one and watch this video of people walking down the busy streets of New York. And they asked one question. They said, who would you choose as victims? And all these criminals, one by one, without hesitation, said, I would pick that one, 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 that one. I mean, they all said almost the exact same people, every single criminal. And so then, of course, they ask, well, how did you choose their victims? Like, how did you choose those people? Okay. And there was 2 main reasons. Number one, it's that the person was distracted, and that's the most common one. That's the one we would all assume. So please, your listeners, everybody listening, take those earbuds out, because they target you based on that. If you can't hear them coming, and they will target you based on having distractions, your head in your phone, earbuds in, all that stuff. But the second thing was the shocking one for me, and this was me, this is why my attacker chose me, was that the people that they chose, the fact that they already looked like a victim. It's that they already looked like they were in victim mentality. Either they were overwhelmed looking, they had their breastbone down, like when we drop our breastbone and we slouch, we tend to come up with words like, I'm exhausted, I'm distracted, I'm powerless. And then when we sit up and lift our chin a little bit with the words powerful, unstoppable, all those types of things, that's exactly the vibe we give off to a potential attacker as well. And so when they see somebody on this video walking and they just look defeated, they walk slow, they look at the ground. If somebody bumps into them, they look kind of startled versus like poofed up and confident, making eye contact versus not making eye contact. So it is just the basics of giving off a vibe that you're confident, and that gives off the vibe then that you have enough self-worth to fight for yourself. So it's a most powerful thing. If I could just literally leave your listeners with one thing from today, I would say, even if you're an insecure person, even if you struggle with your own mindset and self-worth, because that's what I did till 4 years ago, still walk with your breastbone up, make that confident eye contact. And there's a big difference between when you say hi to somebody, you don't want to say hi like people pleasery, because that's what I always did. I'm still very sweet, but I'm not a people pleaser anymore. Instead, you want to give off that vibe, and you want to say something with confidence and say hello. There's just a different vibe you're tossing out there. Like, hello, I see you, and don't mess with me. Thank you so much. You know what I mean? So we want to just walk with that confident vibe. And that is the one thing, as you were asking, the aftermath of my attack. Even though I was extremely paranoid, I walked with that confident vibe. Inside, I was insecure, I was scared, but I really quickly came to find out that if I'm walking down the street looking scared of everybody, I was actually way more likely to be attacked again, versus if I walked with confidence and looked confident. So there you go. That's the aftermath of my attack. I was scared beyond belief. I had extreme problems with my self-worth still for many years, which I can get into at some point. But I put on that cloak of confidence as long as I needed to until that felt like home to me.
I love that you said that even though you weren't feeling it, you still did it anyway because you know that was going to help you. So I know there's a bunch of times we don't feel like working out. We don't feel like reading our Bible. We don't feel like being nice to someone. But if we're doing that, even just something as simple as fixing your posture, that's going to eventually creep into your subconscious, which I love that you brought that up.
Absolutely. You know, one of my favorite things is I have a sticky note on my bathroom mirror, and every morning I see it and it says, Tiffany, I actually wrote my full name there, Tiffany, do what you say you're going to do today. Because that is one of those things that I recommit every single day to walking in that confident posture, being a kind person, doing what I'm going to say, you know, what I want to do with my mission, not being rude to somebody who's rude to me, all that good stuff. So, and doing the workouts like you mentioned.
So take us in the next step. You started with your posture and walking from there. What were the next steps, or what direction did you go next?
So I did jump into martial arts, self-defense type of thing. So I actually went and got my 2 different second-degree black belts, and one of them specifically is in street smart self-defense. And I found it so fascinating that there's a whole bunch of actually things missing in self-defense when it comes to dealing with the reality. So I interviewed police forces. I interviewed everybody I could. I studied those 2 different types of martial arts that I learned. Those are the ones I have my black belts in. But I've also studied a whole bunch of different ones because each of them have their specialties. The ones that I learned, if you got thrown to the ground and somebody was on top of you, no clue what to do. So I went and studied all these different types, and I ended up kind of making, in a sense, a mesh of the ones that work best for even a petite woman, because the shorter the woman, the less leverage we have. So if I could teach a little itty bitty woman to do it, then, you know, the large man I'm teaching is going to do it in a heartbeat. So I went and started studying all these different martial arts. I also studied with the police forces to understand how attacks actually really happen, because I don't want to just blow fluff up people's buns, you know, and I really want people to understand, okay, here's the reality. But I also don't believe in teaching based on fear. You know, I teach in my high heels, because I was wearing heels when I was attacked, right? So we need to understand how to use them. But doing it in a feminine way, doing it in a light way, and actually laughing and enjoying as you learn self-defense is so important. So to answer your question, I started diving into martial arts, but really kind of also understanding what was missing in the self-defense world so I can bring it to women, you know, all over the world, especially those women who don't have access to self-defense in different countries. So, I dove in. I did make it my mission. It's always been a side mission of mine. I always had a career until a couple of years ago where I made this my soul's mission. And I've been doing it full-time, more than full-time, because I just cannot sit by and watch people, especially in my life. I know a couple people not too long ago who got attacked, aggressively attacked. And I have my heart, my soul's mission. I feel very led to get this in people's hands.
That's what I love about what you specifically do, because anyone can just go learn self-defense or Google a how-to video, but you talk about the mindset behind everything and the confidence and how to combat paranoia or those negative thoughts. So you talk about how to stop those thoughts. So can you walk us through like what exactly, or your advice or things you actually do to stop those thoughts, and how can you channel that into being more positive, more confident, and carrying yourself better?
Yeah, you know, I think a couple of my favorite mindset things that I've ever gone through was one, I'm a recovered people pleaser, Tiffany, because I just could not say no to people in the past. And that is one of the situations, there's 5, and I won't get into all 5, but there are 5 main things where you can actually predict a violent perpetrator. You can predict their behavior just by their behavior. One of them is persistence. So when somebody, asks you to do something, hey, just let me have this one dance. Oh, come on. Are you serious? Come on. And they just are persistent. If they want to help you with your groceries to your vehicle and they just keep insisting after you've said no, you have to cut it and walk away. And so you have to set those boundaries. And so one of the biggest things that helped me, I know this sounds so funny, but it's the no challenge, where I actually was challenged by one of my life coaches. I always have a coach in my life. One of my life coaches to say no to every single request that's made of me for 2 whole weeks. And then if you really want to come back around and say yes, like, you get invited to an event, you get offered water by the waitress, say, in a very graceful, gracious way, you say no to every single request. Obviously it works a little bit different, but you do that. And then you come back around and say, you know what, on second thought, I would love that water. Or on second thought, you know what, I can make that event. It was the most mind-blowing 2 weeks of my life, because I was almost crippled with fear about it, especially with certain people in my life where I was intimidated by them. I had a boss at the time who was a powerful woman, and I was very intimidated by her. And anything she asked me to do, I said yes. And so for 2 weeks, I had to tell her no. And so I had 3 options. I said, you know what? I'm actually very booked for 2 weeks. So either we could wait 2 weeks for me to do that, or you can take it on, or we could outsource it, but whatever works best for you. So I gave her 3 options, and she said, oh, you know what? Yeah, we could wait 2 weeks. No problem. And it was like, oh my gosh, because I was very busy, or productive. I like to say, I don't like the word busy, but I really do. It was fascinating to watch this woman in my life, who we always kind of had a wall up between us. Over those 2 weeks, she actually skyrocketed her respect for me. I was shocked by it, because I actually thought she would be upset with me. And come to find out, in hindsight, and she and I have discussed this, she never fully trusted me. Even though I was the sweetest person, all the things, she never fully actually trusted me, because I was such a people pleaser. I wasn't authentic. I wasn't genuine. I was literally telling her whatever she wanted to hear in order for her to like me. And if you don't consider that a manipulation, you should, right? Because as people pleasers, we're not vindictive, we're not mean, we're not, looking to hurt somebody, but I am trying to say everything nice to her to manipulate her into liking me. Okay. So that was one of the best lessons I've ever had, was when I actually started saying no, people respected me way more, and I ended up respecting myself so much more, and it wipes you off the attacker list of so many victims or would-be attackers. So I would say the boundaries, non-emotional, healthy boundaries, not these, a lot of times we start getting into the boundary talk, and these women who are just a little insecure about setting boundaries, we get feisty about it, and we're like, no, I'm not doing that. You get a little feisty and intense about it, and that's not coming from a healthy-minded place either, right? So just, oh, thank you so much. It's just not going to work for me, or it's not in alignment for me at the moment. Thank you for thinking of me. Just some super simple, non-emotional, healthy boundaries, and being able to say no. That was one of the biggest things that broke me out of my victim mentality myself.
So along with the toxic thoughts, you talked about boundaries, having healthy boundaries. We did a whole mini series on vulnerability and making sure you're setting yourself up for success that way by having healthy boundaries with vulnerability. So what are some other things, talk a little bit about how you were stuck in your head, whether it's paranoia or trying to recover from what you had to recover from. What were some things either you told yourself, did you have declarations? Did you seek a group? What did you do to kind of help get you out of that, along with the research and everything?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. It was definitely a progression for me, because it was not overnight. And I'm very open about the fact that I was abused as a child, and then I was attacked, and then I ended up getting into 2 abusive marriages, which I will tell you, thinking back to that, I am a whole different person. There's no way in heck that I would ever let somebody treat me like that again, because I understand my own self-worth finally. So one of the things was really understanding, reading books about why I was attracting that type of man in my life in the first place. And there's a book called Facing Love Addiction by Pia Melody. And I was a complete love addict. I was literally more scared of somebody abandoning me, of me being alone, than dying, because my ex-husband shot a gun at me, and he did a whole bunch of other horrible things. And I still stayed with him because I was more scared to be alone, and my fear of abandonment was so high that I would have rather died. And it was just nuts for me to finally come to that realization. And so with that, I did a lot of work around fear of abandonment. So I just read a lot of books, listened to different podcasts forever ago. I don't have any off the top of my head, but just really understanding and digging into where fear of abandonment comes up for us, and stepping out of that, and I was really stuck in victim mentality. We have, as humans, human needs. Okay. So, and we're going to get them met somehow. Either it's going to be in a resourceful, healthy way or an unresourceful, toxic way, right? So a couple of, just an example of that, because this is why I was stuck in victim mentality, and how I broke out of it. We have love and connection. So we all want to love and connect with people, right? And then we have significance, where significance sounds like a egotistical thing, but actually significance is like we all want to feel unique and special in some way. Okay, so significance doesn't have to be a yucky thing. And then we have certainty and control, certainty, and then variety and uncertainty. So, the people who travel all over the world and they could just pick up and go, they have a high need for variety. So let's just talk about the love and connection side of things. And this was my top need, but I was meeting it in an unresourceful way, and it was keeping me in victim mentality. So basically, one of the ways I would do a pity party for myself, right? I'd feel bad. I would always be sick. I was always feeling bad for myself. When I would talk to my friends, I was the friend who was like, oh, I would always help everybody else, but then I'd always come back to me and be like, I was attacked, right? Like I would just go right into my pity party. I can't believe that happened to me. And what would I get though? I would get love and connection from people. They were like, oh, Tiff, oh, it's okay. And they'd give me hugs, loves, compliments, all the things. Well, I was getting my need for love and connection met. But is that a resourceful way of me being toxic and negative Nancy over here, right? That's not how it is. Instead, I started working so hard on my own self-worth and settling my fear of abandonment and all the things. But I also understood that concept that it's like, okay, that's how I was getting my need for love and connection met in an unresourceful, toxic way. We all have those people in our lives who are pity parties. Just know that they're getting love and connection through in a negative way, right? We all have those people, and it's draining for us. That's the reality. I was a drain on people. So instead, I really came to the realization, I wrote a whole list of how can I get love and connection in a resourceful way, that I still get that need met, but I'm not looking for people to pity party with me and feel bad for me and all that. That was a huge breakthrough for me to think, okay, what are all my needs? What are all the needs? How am I meeting each in an unresourceful way? How am I meeting each in a resourceful way? And I want to do more of that. I want to meet my needs in a more resourceful way. Significance, you can meet that in a resourceful way by giving to charity, or you can meet it in an unresourceful way by putting a gun in somebody's face and you're instantly significant, right? That was one of my biggest shifts that I've ever had.
So in the Get Out of Your Head book, Jenny Ellen talks about 3 things that we feel. So we don't want to feel worthless, we don't want to feel helpless, and we don't want to feel unlovable. And so she combats that by like, what are the biblical truths there? So you're obviously not worthless because you're significant. You're not helpless because you're here for a purpose, and you are not unlovable. Obviously you're loved because Jesus died on the cross for you. So I love how you came up with what to do by journaling. And I like how you actually physically wrote down ways that would help you and that are productive and good. And then you also compared it to a non-example. So I think a lot of times we maybe could come up with some good examples, but not necessarily non-examples. And even just the little daily things that we do that don't seem like they're making that big of an impact, but they really are because they're unchecked. And then over time, you're like, oh, wow, okay, this is an issue.
Agreed.
Absolutely. I think journaling is so powerful for us to just really, digest our day, digest our feelings, and really be able to process. I'm a huge fan of journaling and also meditation, prayer, all the things that has us just take that step back and look at ourselves almost with some childlike curiosity, take the emotion out of it, and you just kind of take a step back as if you're looking at, a friend, and you just, can take that big picture view and understand that there's some very simple things that we can celebrate as wins, and there's certain things that we can create shifts around.
Well said. Well, we are about to wrap up the interview, but I always like to ask our interviewees if there's anything that you really want our audience to walk away with that maybe we haven't set you up for. One big thought that you want to be sure is driven home tonight.
I would say, even if you're struggling with your own self-worth, even if you are struggling on some level, where you put out that you're strong to the world, but behind closed doors, you're really struggling, I want you to know you're not alone. I did that for years and years and years, where I felt incongruent, where everybody thought I was so strong, but I was a mess behind closed doors. I want you to know that we all struggle behind closed doors, even the people who look like they really, really have their stuff together. They have their days, they have their moments. And one of the things, the lessons I've given myself, one of the challenges I've given myself is on those rough days. Sometimes I let myself take 6 hours, take 8 hours, and just feel horrible. I eat all of the stuff. I binge watch horrible TV, whatever it is. But I actually set a timer on my phone. And when that timer goes off, I force myself to shift. So I shift my posture, eat something healthy, call and connect with someone, pray, all the things that help pull you out of that struggle. But sometimes we just need to not feel shame around the emotions that go up and down in our lives, because they're going to happen. I don't care who it is. We all have it. Believe me. Sometimes I'm not the prettiest behind closed doors with myself. You know what I mean? I'm just a cryy mess or a mad or whatever else. It's just reality. Don't feel shame about it. Don't feel guilt, and just let yourself feel that way. Set the timer on your phone, and then pull yourself up by your bootstraps and pull yourself out of it, because you're meant to make an impact in this world. And we can't do that when we're suffering, when we're staying in our suffer.
Well said. So obviously people need more of you. So where can we find you on the internet? What kind of resources do you have or offer? So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, tiffanyarmstrong.net is the easiest way to find me. And I have different online self-defense and personal safety courses. I also have, like what I discussed in this session with you guys, I actually have a online personal development course called Leveling Up. Your Mind is Your Most Powerful Weapon, and it takes you through 12 steps. One is finding out your 6 human needs. One is, a whole bunch of things. And it's what took me from being a total mess in life to who I am today, honestly. It's my favorite lessons. So that's called Leveling Up. Otherwise, just checking out my website. You can find me on Instagram at Tiffany_D_Armstrong. And I am so responsive. So any questions you have about personal development, mindset, self-defense, personal safety, I will get right back to you and love on you.
I love it. Instagram people, go to her Instagram and follow it, because something I love that you do, Tiffany, is that you give really easy, quick tips that are easy to remember, and they make sense, and it's easily applicable. So if anyone just wants to scroll through your Instagram, you're automatically going to learn quick self-defense tips, or just practical, actionable things you can do to keep you and the people you love safe. So I love that.
And who knows, it could save your life, right? Like,
for real.
Tiffany had those 3 things, and it saved her.
We also have several realtors who are listeners, and you offer something specific for realtors, right? Where you talk about that?
I do. Yep, I do. I actually have the Savvy Real Estate Agent Self-Defense. It's a 12-video personal safety course that I offer, and it is very specific to agents. I've been specializing in agent safety for 15 years, and because they're attacked 40% more often than than most other professions, I should say. So they're in such unique situations. It holds my heart to them. So, but yeah, and then I do safety programs for agents where I actually go into the brokerage and the firm and teach them.
Sounds like a tax write-off, friends. Maybe you should listen to that. Hint, hint.
I love that.
Perfect. Okay, listeners, we hope you loved this episode as much as we do. If you want to learn those 3 moves or anything like that, you need to check out her website.
Yeah, go kick some butt.
We help busy Christian women get the growth they want by giving them the tools they need in order to have happier, healthier lives.
We love providing our Christian-based personal growth podcast to our listeners at no cost. If you are enjoying the content, please consider supporting our mission by donating to our Patreon.
We're a small team creating the show for our community by researching, recording, and producing the episodes ourselves. Any amount is greatly appreciated. Your support will help offset the cost of making and hosting the show.
As a thank you, you can receive exclusive access.
For more details on specific membership tiers, visit our Patreon page. Go to patreon.com/witty and gritty. We've included the link in the show notes.